What's going on, guys? Welcome to another book review in Alex's reading room. I did not set up my light, but I wanted to record this one. Today we're going to be reviewing an interesting book, to say the least, and that is The Man Who Folded Himself by David Gerrold. This is a very interesting book, all right? And for a spoiler-free review, I will start with that. So I'm just going to get right into the age rating. So as far as sexuality, this book actually gets a 3 out of 3. I will explain that in the spoiler section. But just so you know, got a lot of sexuality in it, alright? It's actually a really short book. It's only like 117 pages. 115. It was 117. 115 pages. Very short book. As far as language, I actually don't remember. I think it's 0. It's either 0 or 1. I know there's definitely not heavy language in it. If there is any at all. I actually don't think there is any. I think it's a 0. But anyway, for substance, as far as I can remember, there is 0 substance. There's no alcohol, no tobacco, no drugs. And for death and injury, I rated it a 1. And I'll explain that in the spoiler section, but it's just very light. Just suffice it to say that it's very light. In the spoiler-free section, we'll just say that. The age rating is an 18. Obviously, for the 3 out of 3 sexuality, it's going to be an 18. But for critique, I rated it a 7 out of 10. And so it is definitely above average. It's not an advanced read. I will say that because I know my age rating system also has advanced. It's not an advanced read. I think you can easily understand. Even if you're not trying to read an advanced book. It's a book I would recommend, but it is strange. Okay. There's not a lot I can say, but I think there are 2 characters in this book. Technically, there's like a lawyer in the beginning of the book, and I think that, I don't know, maybe that counts as a character, but it's like, but he's such a tiny minor character in the book that it doesn't even really matter. So there's really 2 main characters of the book. And it tells the story of a man named Dan, and he is given a time belt. It's a time travel book, by his Uncle Jim. And it centers around his adventures with that. And I won't get into it in the spoiler-free section, but I'm about to switch to the spoiler section, and I will say that the main character is Dan. Uncle Jim is not really talked about that much. But the character of Dan is very, very fleshed out. So if you're looking for something that really truly fleshes out one single character, this is your book. I would say the pacing is pretty good, especially because this book's only 115 pages. It doesn't feel like it moves too fast. It feels like you just have to understand the focus of the story, because and I'm not going to go into it on the spoiler-free section, but you have to understand that in a book about time travel, and it looks like, he's time traveling to different periods of time and everything like that, it looks like that would be the focus, but actually there is a different focus of the story, and once you understand that, you realize that actually the pacing is really good. So that's basically all I'm going to get into for the spoiler-free section. Now moving on to the spoiler section. This is, if you're scrubbing along the timeline, I always say this, but if you're scrubbing along the timeline, this is a part with spoilers, so... Now, let's start with why I rated it a 3 out of 3 sexuality. As this guy time travels, he folds himself, meaning that he meets different versions of himself. And he actually will frequently meet a version of himself that is one day older. And then one day later, he goes back in time and meets the version of himself that's one day younger. He calls the older version of himself Don and the younger version of himself Dan. And he ends up having a sexual relationship with himself. Okay, that is why it gets a 3 out of 3 in sexuality. There's also a part of the book where he imagines and meets a female version of himself, and I believe she is called Diana, but I can't remember 100%. And eventually he ends up like falling out of love with Diana, and she falls out of love with him, and I don't know, it's crazy because the book also talks about the book also talks about like how he went back in time and he met Jesus and he talked with all these famous, people from hundreds of years ago, and but that is not the focus of the story. The focus of the story is very solidly Dan's relationship with himself. It's both physical and emotional. It's about learning about himself and discovering who he is, and that is very much what the book is about. And while I did not enjoy the scenes of him having sex with himself, I still have to recommend this book because it is a very interesting read, and it is very thought-provoking with the time travel stuff. I think, a lot of time travel stories will shy away from this kind of stuff. Will shy away from somebody being able to meet themselves, or they'll handle it in a very mysterious way or something like that. But this book actually goes really deep into that concept. And so I have to say, there are a lot of parts that I don't want to say there are a lot. There are some parts of this book that I actually did not enjoy reading. I felt very uncomfortable reading. I have to recommend it because it's still thought-provoking, and I think that the average reader, or at least the average reader that has the same taste as I do, will find enjoyment out of this book. And the book ends, I just want to leave you guys with this. The book ends actually with him saying, with him deciding that he's going to put on the time belt. And I thought for a second, and I'm like, hold on, which version of Dan is this? And you realize it doesn't actually matter. It doesn't matter if this is happening before the start of the story or after the start of the story. It doesn't actually matter because of the whole time travel thing and the fact that he can go back in time and all that stuff. So it's very interesting. It's a very interesting read. There's a house party in the 90s or something like that where he has all different versions of himself at different ages and how he can meet much older versions of himself and everything like that. And then when he's older, he goes to that same house party and he meets the very young versions of himself, and it's just very interesting. So I would recommend this book. It's a cautious recommend, I would say. It's very thought provoking, and I think you should read it. But also there are some parts that might make some people uncomfortable. So with that said, I'm going to conclude this review. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more book reviews, then please subscribe to this channel. Leave a like on this video. It helps out a lot. It actually helps out a lot more than most people realize, I think. Because just leaving a like, it tells YouTube, hey, this person not only watched it, but they said it was good. So maybe we should recommend it to other people. Anyway, I'm going to record more book reviews. But if you enjoyed this, then that's amazing. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next one.